This week, President Trump said an open relationship with Russia is important, and French President Macron agreed. So why is the left continuing to push a Red Scare? One Democrat even going so far as to suggest we should bomb them for meddling in our election. Listen.
We were and are under attack by a hostile foreign power, and they seem to be abetting that hostile foreign power. We should be debating how many sanctions we should place on Russia, or whether we should blow up the KGB or GSU, GRU. I mean, we should be retaliating massively. Because, by the way, if I were a Trump supporter, I would want to retaliate massively because it has tainted his victory.
Here to weigh in, Marie Harf, former State Department spokesperson under President Obama, and Morgan Ortagus, former State Department press officer and former financial intel analyst for the Treasury Department. Marie, I'll let you go first. How do you respond to that?
Well, look, there's a reason that the newest Russia sanctions passed the Senate 97-2, because there's broad bipartisan support, or at least there always has been, for the notion that Russia is not our friend. Sure, we have to work together when it's in our interest to do so, but we have to be very clear that around the world, Russia is doing things to undermine U.S. national security, and they did interfere in our election, regardless of whether they helped the candidate some people like or didn't like. It should worry members of every single party, and you have people like Marco Rubio, like John McCain, who say, wait a second, they're not our friends. Next time, it may not be the Democrats, it may be the Republicans it's happening to. This is not some Red Scare. This is a very serious issue.
Okay, Morgan, though, isn't a bomb different than sanctions?
Yeah, very different, considering I worked on sanctions for a long time, quite different than bombing Russia, which I think is incredibly irresponsible, and I don't think that gentleman is within the mainstream of the Democrat Party, or I certainly hope he's not. It's a new day when the Republicans are calling for no bombing and for prudence on the international stage. But listen, on a serious note, I do agree with Marie that Russia is meddling, more than just meddling. They're harming our interest in Syria and Afghanistan, around the world. So the key is, what does President Trump and his team have to do? I was very critical of the Obama administration for the past 8 years because I think that they were incredibly dovish, incredibly soft on Russia. And I think the reason that Russia is empowered in the Middle East today and around the world is because of the failed policies of the Obama administration. And I would not encourage the Trump administration to follow those same failed policies.
Let's talk about the Obama administration for a moment. You'll recall in that infamous now debate where President Obama said the 1980s want their foreign policy back. That was sort of a dig at Mitt Romney. Well, Jon Favreau, former Obama speechwriter, weighed in and said they might have been wrong about that. Take a listen.
I'm willing to say that in 2012, when we all scoffed at Mitt for saying that Russia was our #1 geopolitical foe, I think we were a little off there.
Okay, Marie, I'll leave that one to you. When were you off? Was it in 2012 during the campaign, or was it now in that statement?
Well, I think John is correct, and maybe going back and looking at what we said. But that's what's so interesting. Morgan just alluded to the fact that for 8 years, a lot of people were critical of the Obama administration for being, quote, too soft on Russia. And now I want those same Republicans, particularly in Congress, to stand up and hold the Trump administration to the same standard. Donald Trump has in many ways been much closer to the Russians than we ever were. And I just want some consistency here on foreign policy.
Morgan, last word.
Yeah, I would just say that, you know, every president has to deal with the situation that they're dealt when they come into office. And President Trump and his team have to deal with an emboldened Russia, unfortunately. So a lot of things that we would like to do in Syria, in Iraq, in Afghanistan, and what you see going on in Ukraine, I mean, you have to deal with an emboldened Russia as it is now. And so we can't, you know, we can't bomb Russia. We can't pretend like they're not a presence in the Middle East and around the world. They are. So we're going to have to come to some sort of negotiated consensus with them, like the president and his team did with the Syrian ceasefire this week, which I hope holds.
Ladies, great debate. Got to leave it there. Thank you so much. Have a great day.